So you should be putting all your bricks on different layers from day one. So go ahead and open up that one single brick layer. And I just want to see the curve and the line work that you have going on. Pull them up on your screens. I'm just going to do a little walk around here for a second. Make sure everyone's got it. Remember, let's say your windows are kind of all in different places here, spread out. Remember, you can right click on the zoom extent option up here in the toolbar. It'll zoom in perfectly on just that one part for each window simultaneously. Alright. All right. One thing you can do right out of the gate is just, you could grab everything if you'd like and just explode it. So basically, if I had, for example, here we go. So here's this polyline. I have this closed polyline on the top. I selected one and selected all. So those are all joined together on those corners. If I want to unjoin all those at once, I hit the explode command, which is over here on the left. Either type it in or use the icon here. Explode command. So now I have all separate curves. So I'm going to do that for the whole model. Take this and explode it, just so they're all separate lines. Now, there's two ways that we can model this thing. We could surface the entire thing and then cap everything off and make it a solid, or we can start with solids. So we're going to model this twice. So let's start with just surfacing it, because you may use one tool at one time and the other tool other time. So we're going to use primarily the tools here under surface. We're not going to use any of the solid tools at this point. So let's start with one of these curves up on top. And I'm just going to use what's called a surface extrude planar curve straight right here. Surface extrude curve straight. And it's going to do just that. I drag my mouse up and down. I'm not holding down the left mouse button or anything. I just did the command. Now to zoom, or I'll hover over this other circle that we drew as a reference point when we drew all our curves, and I'll just left click. And so that made a surface. Now let's go over here to another piece. And this one, let's do this one a little differently. I'm going to use a command called loft. We used this one last class, I believe. So I'm going to loft. It says, all right, select curves to loft. So I'm going to go ahead and select this top curve and then this bottom curve. And it's basically going to loft a surface between those two curves. Now hit enter. It says, hey, is this the direction you want to create this surface? Sometimes, you see these little arrows? If I hit enter right now, it will finish the command. A little pop-up window will come up and it'll ask me some other specifics about the command, and typically you just go with what is default at this point. So I say, yep, loft, boom. Looks pretty similar to this other surface that we created. Does the exact same job. Now if I did surface loft again, just so you know, when I do the loft, I add this, hit enter. It gives me these 2 points to begin the loft. If I just click on one of these and hold it, I can actually, typically can move these. There we go. And let's say I tweaked it and I started it over here. Hit enter, hit loft, and you notice it's a little funky. It's because I didn't start that loft right even with each other, I guess you could say. Let me just delete that. So if you ever come up with an issue, you know, you're trying to loft something and it's not looking the way you want it to look, make sure that your points are lined up before you loft. Also another issue that can happen with loft, go to loft these, and it defaults, it pretty much says, all right, I'm going to, Rhino figures out, hey, I want it to go this direction to start even. But sometimes you may have one arrow point in one direction, one arrow point in the other. Let me show you what happens at that point. Then you get something that looks like this. So if you're trying to loft something, you're like, man, it's really not working well, make sure that both your arrows are pointed in the right direction when you start the loft command. So, surface, loft. I'll loft these 2 together. There we go, loft. Does anyone having issues with that command? Trying it? There's right now, no, I'd use either one for these shapes.
In the surface, what's the difference between clicking on extrude curve and then going straight and just clicking extend surface? Oh, never mind. I thought it said extrude surface. It says extend.
Yeah, extensor. Yeah, different command. Different. So let's do this. Draw a curve. Or a line, I should say. Draw a line between the quadrant of one circle to the quadrant of the other circle. So it's like this. I'm just going to hide inverse here for a second so you can see what's happening. So I just drew a line between this curve and this curve. So there's a couple more commands we can do here to make this surface like what we had on the others. First of all, there is surface sweep one rail. So it does just that. It says, all right, select the rail. This curve that I just drew over here is going to be my rail. I click that and it says, all right, select the cross section. So it says, all right, what curve or cross section do you want to sweep along this rail? I select my circle, I hit enter, enter, sweep. And it does just that. Exact same surface that we've been getting with the other commands, just another way to get there. This could have been a straight line down. This could have been if it would have been a curve like this. I say surface sweep one rail. I I select the rail, I select the cross section, I hit enter, and it sweeps that cross section along that rail. And then there's other commands within the sweep command or other options that we'll cover later, but for the most part, the default settings will work. Hit OK. It gives you a surface like that. Now, same thing, I could have said, all right, let's have 2 rails here. So I'm going to draw one off of here. So let's say I have these 2 rails. I'm going to do the surface sweep 2 rail command. It says, all right, select the first rail, select the second rail, now select your cross section. Enter. Sweet. So it takes that first cross section and it will warp it and transform it to kind of sweep along these 2 rails. So if this circle was not here, I only had this circle and this line, I could say surface sweep 1 rail, select my cross section, hit enter, and it'll sweep it just like that. Okay, cool. Now, we did the loft, we did the sweeps. Let's do a revolve. So I'm going to draw that straight line again over here, quad to quad, enter. I have this curve, this line, and I'm going to do surface revolve. It says, all right, what's your center point here that you want to revolve around? I click here. I'm just hovering over one of my circles. I have my object snaps turned on, so center is highlighted here, so it will snap to the center. Click that. It says, all right, what's the other end of your revolve axis? And I say, oh, straight down. So here I made this perfectly straight pole for this thing to spin around right here. Boom. And it says, all right, what's your start angle? 0 is fine. That's the default. What's your end angle? 360. I want this to revolve full 360 degrees. You can kind of see what's going to happen here. I can revolve this curve around that center axis, and you see you get that same result. So that's revolve. You know, and with revolve, let me do an edit rebuild here. 6 points, sure. Turn my control points on. I'm just gonna pull this out a little bit. So I could grab this curve, do that surface revolve, center there, the center here, enter, enter, get something like that. So that's your revolve tool. Take a profile, you just spin it around, and you come up with your shape. Also, you know, just like we did revolve right now, you could even use surface sweep 2 rails. All right, select the first rail right here, select second rail right here. Here's my cross section, enter, enter. Almost the same result as revolve, just another way to get there. So these are some of those key tools I want you guys to get really comfortable with, because there's going to be certain times you're going to use them, and sometimes you won't. Some are better than others for certain applications. So just know that all these surfacing commands are there. Curve network, we'll cover that later. Just unhide here and get the rest of the surface. So I will do a surface extrude right here. Surface, extrude, straight. I'm going to extrude this to the other curve there. Just have that guy. So, looking at all these other parts and pieces. There's another command here. Let's do this sidewall here. External, well, let's start with the internal sidewall. So this internal sidewall, these 4 curves. I'm going to do surface from planar curves. So if I have 3 to 4 plus curves, it can be 3 minimum, infinitely the other direction. But planar curves, it says, all right, select your curves that are on the exact same plane. Select this one, this one, this one, and this one. Hit enter, and it'll make a surface right there. I can do the surface extrude planar or surface extrude straight. Just grab one of these curves, enter, and extrude it down to this other curve. Now, let's say I use the surface extrude command straight. I'm going to come down, but let's say I didn't want to come down with it. I wanted to go the other direction. I would type in D, enter, or I'd come over here to my command line and I'd click on direction. I'm just going to type in D direction or D, enter, and it says, all right, what direction do you want to go? Let's say I'm going to click here as a reference point. I'm going to hold shift down and click out here as a second reference point to show it, hey, I want to extrude it this direction instead. So now it's extruding horizontally, not vertically.
Does it always default to the y-axis?
No, it really kind of depends on how you drew your initial line. Like what viewport you drew it in, and it kind of calculates from there if it should be going that way or that way. Yeah. So that was extrude. I did from planar curves there. I could do a loft, surface loft. I can select this bottom line and this top line. It'll loft these together, and I know that when it lofts them, that it will create an edge on this surface that will be lined up with this edge of this other surface. I'll show you here. Hit OK, loft. I could do a let's say I do a surface extrude, or well, let's do this. I'm going to take these surfaces. Now, the lines are still here. They didn't go anywhere. Your curves and your lines are still here also. They're on top of those surfaces, which is great because it's always good to keep some of your, you want to keep your lines and your curves all the time in case you want to go back and tweak something and redevelop a surface. The reason I bring this up, I'm just going to grab these surfaces only. I'm going to use my hide inverse command so I can hide everything else. I just want to look at these surfaces. And I can use a lot of those exact same commands we've been using. You don't need to use a curve or a line to do a lot of these surface commands. You can use, for example, I'm going to do loft. It will work from edges of surfaces also. So I just did loft. I'm going to select this edge of that surface, this edge of that surface, hit enter, and it'll loft them. I could do a surface extrude, planar curve straight. I can select an edge, hit enter. Now notice it's going this direction. I'm going to type in D, enter, and I'll actually click here. I'll click over here on this other edge because I know I want it to go that way. I'll left click there.
What command was that?
Surface, extrude, curve, straight. Exact same commands we've been using.
Okay.
You have 2 different headsets? Oh, just one.
No, it's not, nothing's going on.
Looked like you had 2 different, like you're listening to 2 different things. All right. So that make sense? So you don't always have to use curves, but you can use existing edges of surfaces that you've made for a lot of these commands. So let me go and do this.
So for some of them, it puts up like your planar lines, like the X and
Yeah, those are ISO curves. It's just how it represents that surface. Yeah, that's fine.
But for like when you did just the extend the curve, it did put it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's same information. Yep.
So when you extend the curve, why does it want to stick to the y, or yeah, why does it want to stick to the y-axis?
You mean extrude?
Yeah.
Sometimes it will go one direction, sometimes the other. It
Okay.
depends on how you built the original curve. Let's see here. I'm gonna draw a curve in my top viewport here. Let me repeat that command in my side viewport here. Just curious. Do a surface, extrude curve straight. So that one's wanting to go up and down that way. Let's see this one. Yeah, you know what? It may default to one way or the other. Never really. Yeah, I just knew sometimes that I'd have to change it, and sometimes I wouldn't.
How do you change it?
Remember direction? You type in D.
Oh. Okay, so then you just type D and it'll let you.
D. Yep. Just means you want to change the direction of your extrusion. So let's go ahead and use those different commands and surface the rest of these, all the walls to this piece here. So I'm going to do a surface. I'll just use loft. I'm going to loft these. Boom, boom. I'll repeat loft. I'll loft these. Now, one other thing that might be happening when you try to loft something, watch this. So if I do a loft command and I say, all right, I want this curve to loft to this bottom curve, hit enter. Notice it makes this bow tie effect. That's because I didn't select corresponding edges of those curves. So when you do a loft, you want to make sure that you select, I'm selecting on the left side of this curve, and I'm going to select on the left side of this curve to enter. That'll be all right. You don't want to click on opposite ends. For extrusion, you can also grab two curves at once, do a surface extrude, and it'll extrude both of them at the same time, like so. Do my surface loft. I'm going to loft these inside fill pieces. Or if I wanted to save time, I could grab the top three right here and do a surface extrude, extrude all those at one time.
When you loft some of the pieces, why does it give you diagonal lines that go through it?
Take a look. Oh, you're selecting off origins. You only need to select two curves.
Okay.
Yeah, you only need to select two. Select all origins. Yeah. There you go. Yep. So it just depends. You want to loft it this way or you want to loft this way. Just hit two of them. Now we're doing all these commands with just straight lines. All these commands will work with curves. So if you have any type of form to these, you're extruding them, you're lofting them, it works just fine. But we're just working with the basics here. If you want to cap these off, I'm going to do surface from planar curves. I'm going to select either this curve or the extrusion edge. I can use either one for this command. I'll use the curve, hit enter, and it'll cap it off. It'll make a planar surface from the planar curve, as long as it's closed. I should be able to grab all three of these. I'm going to repeat that command and do all three at once. Just cap these off. Now these are all just free floating surfaces. We haven't joined anything together yet, which is fine. Inside, for example, I have these two. I hide everything else just so you can see this. Do a surface. Actually, that's not right. Oh, yeah. Okay. This top piece, let's play with this for a little bit. I've selected these 4 lines on the outside and these 4 curves on the inside. They're on that same plane. I'm going to hide inverse the others. So there's a couple of things we can do here to surface this thing off. Basically, the end result I want is a surface here with 4 holes cut in it. One thing I could do, I'll just do an extrusion here, surface, extrude curve straight. I'll grab this curve. It's going that way. I don't want it to go that way. I hit direction, tap it over here. I want it to go this way. Okay, boom. So I have a surface here. I want to cut this surface. I can use the exact same commands I use for curves with surfaces. So I can select the surface and I can say split. So I'm going to use my split command over here. I'm going to split this surface with these 4 curves. As long as they're on the exact same plane, these curves are touching the surface, it'll work. Hit enter. Now I have these surfaces, and I can delete these. I just cut 4 holes in this. Another way to do this, let's say I have just a solid surface here. I could trim this surface. So I can use the trim command. I'm going to hit the trim command right here, or on the left, next to split. Select cutting objects. I can select my 4 circles as my cutting objects. I accidentally selected the square piece, so I'm just going to hold Control or Command down and then left click on it and it'll deselect it like that. Now I selected my cutting object, so I'll hit enter and it says select objects to trim, and now I'll just tap away in the circles that I wanted this to trim away the surface at, those areas. Hit enter. Same result as just doing a split. So you can trim and split surfaces using curves or even other surfaces. So for example, let's say these aren't curves at all. So I have 4 surfaces here. I'm going to hide all the curves. There we go. Oops. So we've got these 4 surfaces. Now they're not touching the bottom surface right now. So if I just take this surface and I say split, and I want to split it with these 4, enter, it won't do it. These 4 surfaces need to be either touching this exactly right on, or it can even be popping through the surface, like so. As long as they're going through the surface, then I can take this main surface, say split, it says select cutting objects. Select these, hit enter. So I still have my original objects, which I could hide. And then you see I have split this into Same thing for trim. I can take these 4 pieces, I can hit trim, and I can select the insides here and trim those away. Like so. If I wanted to, I could then take this surface and I could trim, I'm going to use the trim command, I could trim the cylinders out of the way, like that. So then they're joined nicely at the edges, like that. They're not joined, but they're touching. Just like that. So first I used these to trim this piece, and now I use this piece to trim these. Something else we can do. If these curves let's say they're not touching this surface. Say they're floating up here in the air. From a top view, I can still trim. As long as I'm looking at straight on, I can use the trim command. And over in the trim command, there's an option that says apparent intersections. If I do not have that selected, and I go to try to trim this surface, it won't do anything. But if I have apparent intersections selected, I can come in here. I think I just trimmed it. I can trim it. When your apparent intersections is just that, it will use the apparent intersections from a view to cut objects. So even though these curves aren't touching the surface, it's going to use those apparent intersection. I'll do it right now. It's not touching, but it knows that kind of the end result I was looking for. Go back to if I go back to just these curves and lines only, no surfaces, if I select them all at once and I say surface from planar curves, they'll do it all in one shot. No trimming, no splitting. Rhino realizes that, hey, you have one external polyline here, you had 4 circles on the inside. This must have been the desired result that you wanted. If I would have had one more square on the outside, it would be different. I'll show you that. So let's say I had, I'm going to take these and join them together. I'm going to do a curve offset curve, and I'm going to offset it 10 millimeters, boom, like that. So if I had selected all these and I said surface from planar curves, it would have been a little bit different, kind of the opposite result of what we wanted here. Just know that it works that way. So I'll take these, surface from planar curve. I got that. So I've got this top piece up here. It needs to have these holes in it because those need to correspond with this other surface I have butting up to it. I cannot have a floating surface in here. If I'm going to join this to this, they have to touch edge to edge. All right? You can never just have a surface intersecting with another surface on the side and join them together. let's look at this piece in here. Hide all these other. I want to create a roof in here. Oops. Do a surface loft. I'm going to finish up this edge here. I'm going to do a surface planar curves to do this whole top piece and have all the holes in it where I want them. So surface planar curves. I'll select this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge. I'm going to use the edges of these cylinders. Hit enter. Notice I've got this new surface that it created, and it goes right up to these edges, so it'll join nicely. Take these, I select all, just dragging the left marquee over this entire group of geometry here, and I'll hit join. Now it's all joined together. It's not a solid yet by any means. They're just poly surfaces, but it's a start. Hide inverse. So I've got this inside kind of looking close to what I want. I want to cap this cylinder off down at the bottom, so I'm going to do that surface from planar curves again. Just like this and this. I don't care if it's the edge or the curves I've already drawn. Cap that off. I'll grab that, grab this piece and join it together. Join that together. So I've got this. For this outside edge, I'm going to join this entire perimeter curve. And I'm going to just do a surface extrude. Surface extrude curve straight, and just do them all at once. Extrude it down like that. I'll take that. Last thing I need to do to make this a solid. Right now I kind of have this join that together. I have this outside shell and this inside shell. Hide inverse so you see what's happening here. So basically have an A surface. Got two surfaces. Basically the outer shell that we've created, and then the inner shell right here. Oh, and I noticed that I have some holes here. I gotta fill those. So I'm gonna do a surface from planar curve. And I'll select the tops of those cylinders and hit enter. Go. That's one other thing you want to watch out for when you just grab. I'll show you an example here. Let's say I had a curve. I have this surface here, surface edge. But let's say you had a curve there also at the same time. So let's say you have this curve that's kind of hidden on top of this edge. Same size, perfectly lined up. Now I'm going to do the surface from planar curves. So just created some surfaces here, one there, one there, one there. But guess what? We've created two surfaces right on top of each other because we did that command with both the edge and that curve that was right there. So now we have two surfaces. It's kind of the same thing when I talked to you about the curves. We don't want duplicate curves. We also don't want duplicate surfaces. So beware. I think if I try to join this, it should fail or do something kind of funky. Maybe it ignored one of the, yeah. It just failed. Because there were two surfaces there, it would not join correctly. So anyway, I'm going to delete one of the surfaces, now join it to the rest of the geometry here. There we go. So we're almost done with this part. I'll just line them back up here. Just wanted to show you what that looked like, top and bottom, and then I'll come in here and probably just do a surface from planar curves again. Select these edges and cap this thing off. Enter. Like that. I'll join it all together. And now it is a solid. Airtight. There is an analyze tool that you can look at if you're having an issue with your solids. For example, let's say I have a sphere here. I'll just draw another solid close to this, like so. Remember Boolean difference? So let's say this is my Lego piece here. Oops. I'm going to do a Boolean difference. I'm going to subtract the sphere from my Lego piece. So I'm going to go over here to my Boolean commands and do Boolean difference. It says, all right, what do you want to subtract? I want to subtract this sphere, hit enter. Notice this, took it away here. See my wall thickness, this is a solid, which is nice. But let's say, I grab my solid and I try to do that command again. Solid, Boolean difference, I grab this, hit enter, and it tells me Boolean difference failed in my command line. Down here in the bottom, which you can't see in the projector that well, it says Boolean difference failed. It didn't give me the result I was looking for. I'm like, well, what's going on? Yeah, I grab my solid, I come over, I do Boolean difference, grab the sphere I want to subtract, I hit enter, and it fails. So that means there's something wrong with one of these objects. One of them is not a true solid. By selecting both, then I'm like, well, they both look like solids. So I'm going to use a tool to analyze and make sure that I don't have what's called a naked edge. And the naked edge for a solid is just basically two surfaces or parts of that solid that aren't truly joined together to make it airtight. So it's thus a naked edge. So let's say I grab my solid here, right here, and I say, all right, analyze, edge tools, show edges. This will help you guys out a lot, so take note of this. Analyze, edge tools, show edges. Not just you in the assignment, but forever in Rhino. So here you have a couple options. Show all edges. You click that and it shows you, all right, here's all your edges of this part. Okay. Well, show me just the naked edges. So I'm going to hit naked edges only. It says, all right, we're going to show you naked edges and they should be purple. I scroll down here. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got one giant naked edge here. It looks like this surface right here is not even attached to the rest of the geometry. So then I go in here and I click on it, and sure enough, I can move it around, it is not joined. So I'll just take this and this, join them together. And now, because it is a true solid, I can do the Boolean difference. That's why it's so important that you get these to be truly airtight, right on, because a lot of commands won't work when you get into the solids if it's not truly a solid. Make sense? You guys awake? Good? Yeah? Okay. So you should have a part that looks something like this. I'm just going to walk around and answer some questions for a second one-on-one. But that's really, I mean, a lot of these commands I just walked through are exactly what you can do with a ton of your parts. What I'll do next is we'll do this exact same part again, but we're going to do it using mostly solid tools instead of surfacing tools. I'll show you how that works, okay? Let's leave it there. Naked edges.